And 8 years later, I'd completed the work and was able at last to introduce people to the fascinating subject of human body language. One of the first problems I encountered was that even the simplest human action, such as the handshake, has countless variations. Sometimes it's reduced to a mere palm touch, as with these Maasai elders in East Africa. But in other countries it becomes more elaborate. In Mali, in West Africa, the handshaker briefly touches his own forearm as the palms clasp. In Morocco, the handshakers kiss one another's hands at the same time as clasping them. And in Turkey, these Kurdish farmers have taken this simple action and converted it into what amounts to a minor ritual. It's the local rule that they can't start bargaining until they're shaking hands. And they have to keep on doing so until the deal is struck. The essential feature of handshaking is that it's an egalitarian act. Regardless of their social standing, the two people involved are momentarily performing identical actions. So many gestures have different meanings in different places. You have to be quite careful how you use your hands when you're in a marketplace in a foreign country. Now, to me, this means everything's fine, okay. But if I happen to be in the south of France, it would have a quite different meaning. There, the ring shape made by the hand symbolizes a naught or a zero. So, in the south of France, this means zero, or worthless. So you don't want to say the wine was great, because in fact you're saying the wine was worthless. It gets even worse if you go to Sardinia, because there the same gesture is an obscenity with the ring shape symbolizing an orifice. And if you think you're going to say that something is great in Sardinia like this, believe me, you'll be in trouble. There's another way that you can make mistakes with gestures as you move from place to place, because a single message is given in a different way in different countries. The crazy sign. How do you say to somebody, you're crazy? Well, here in Rome, you do this. But in England, I would probably do this, the temple screw, saying he's got a screw loose. Or I might say his brain is going round and round. Or I might tap my head, saying, what does he think he's got inside his skull? In some countries, you do it with two hands. It varies from place to place. And if you go to Japan, you have to be careful, because if you do it this way, it means he's intelligent. You have to do it in an anti-clockwise direction in Japan if you want to say that somebody is crazy. So all over the world, the same message is given in a slightly different way. One of the most obvious examples of this, and one of the most dangerous, is the insult gesture. This Turkish pedestrian displays his anger with the thrust of a stiff forearm, using his arm symbolically as an aggressively erect penis. A slightly more obscure insult is the cornuta, or horn sign, frequently seen in Italy. It implies that the victim of the insult is a cuckold, that his wife is unfaithful to him. In North America, the most common insult is the middle finger jerk, employing the index finger as a symbolic penis. This is an ancient Roman gesture and is well known in many countries. Much more localized is the Greek moutsa. This dates back to Byzantine times and symbolizes excrement being pushed into the victim's face. In Britain, the main insult is a two-fingered gesture, which dates back to the Battle of Agincourt. It's a gesture that foreigners sometimes confuse with the V for victory sign, but that's performed with the hand the other way around. And to this day, in the north, people still give the typical European head shake when saying no. While in the south, they still give the ancient Greek head toss, and this difference has survived despite all the mobility of modern life and the spread of films and television programs. The old gesture frontier remains. Yes signals made with the head are just as complicated as no signals. In most parts of the world, people nod the head up and down when saying yes. Many people mistakenly assume that this action is completely global, but this isn't the case. there are two areas where something else happens. One of them is India, where instead of being nodded, the head is wobbled from side to side when saying yes. To visitors, this looks like a maybe, but it's not. It's a sign of definite agreement. When your taxi driver agrees with you, you can see his head rolling from side to side, and you get the impression that he's undecided.
I don't want to go too far.
But every wobble he makes means yes.
Do you find people excited by these drugs, or is it just really...
In another region altogether, it's not just the visitors who are confused. Even the inhabitants are not always sure what's going on. Here in Bulgaria, they use both the head nod and the head wobble when saying yes, which creates total confusion. Why on earth they should do this remains a mystery, even to them. If we go to the cinema, we're left in little doubt as to the significance of these gestures.
The thumbs up for good and the thumbs down for bad are very well-known gestures, and many people can tell you how they began. It was here in the Colosseum in Rome. If a gladiator at the end of a fight was to be spared, the crowd gave him a thumbs-up sign. If he was to be slain, it was a thumbs-down sign. Now, that's the popular story. There's just one catch. It's completely false. It never happened like that. In ancient times, if the gladiator was to be spared, they gave him a covered-up thumb, the pollice compresso, compressed or squashed thumb. They hid their thumbs. If he was to be slain, then they mimed the act of stabbing him with a sword like this. And because they were high up, of course, they stabbed downwards like that. That's the truth of the...
The coach of an American football team transmits complex signals to his quarterback using coded hand signals that conceal his intentions from the opposing team. Even if the opposing team does manage to crack the gestural code at any one time, it's being constantly changed to confuse them. On the floor of the Bombay Stock Exchange, hand gestures provide a powerful tool when competing for attention. The frantic sell and buy signals, indicated by the position of the hands, can be the basis of huge deals, an insistent flick of the fingers being the only way to attract attention above the roar of the crowd. Here in Africa, we freed our hands from the business of walking. We freed them from the chore of locomotion, and that was what enabled them to become the flexible, gesticulating hands that we have today.